Medical investigator is called to recover the body of an elderly woman and makes a shocking discovery. Happened at an apartment complex near First Avenue and River Road. As News 4 Tucson's Lupita Murillo found in this CrimeTrackers investigation, there was no body. Instead, the investigator walked away empty-handed.
Joan Allman lived in this complex. June 14th was the last day that neighbors say they saw her alive. 4 days later, her boyfriend called the manager and asked her to check in on Joan because he hadn't heard from her in a couple of days.
News 4 CrimeTrackers obtained this investigative summary that says Officer Lenny Wong arrived on scene.
The officer at the time stated that the decedent was decomposing and he pronounced her on the scene.
The report says Officer Wong pronounced her dead at 2:15 p.m. Jimmy Rosario was a medical legal investigator from the Pima County Medical Examiner's Office. He no longer works there. We went to Phoenix to interview him.
This was one of those calls that just stuck in the back of the head. I'll never forget her.
He won't forget because as he was processing the scene with Officer Wong in the room,
and as I looked, I could have sworn that her leg had moved.
The room was dark, so they opened the blinds.
I noticed that her ankle was rotating around. And he looked at me, I looked at him, and then I went up to her neck and I took a carotid pulse. And she had a pulse. And I said, "Joan." And she moaned. I told him that, she's alive and that we need to get EMS in here.
Officer Wong called for medical assistance. A nearby Tucson fire station sent paramedics within minutes. In the meantime, Rosario's 30 years of paramedic training kicked in.
The sheets were sticking to her skin, so I had to gently turn her around on the supine position and started cleaning her airway. I got on the bed and just had her head on my lap and just started talking to her. "Hey, we're going to get you help, hang in there." And
paramedics arrived and Rosario briefed them.
Told her to be very careful because the sheets were sticking to her. And they gave me an oxygen mask, a rebreather. I put it on her mouth, and I kept talking to her. We got her on the gurney. We got her out, and that was it.
Rosario says he couldn't get the scene out of his head.
Can you imagine laying on that bed and listening to people talking, saying that you're dead and you're not?
Joan Allman was rushed to University Medical Center. She was in ICU, and the report says she suffered a stroke and fractured her elbow. She was taken to TMC Hospice and died on July 8th. Her daughter was at her bedside. We spoke to Tucson Police Chief Roberto Villaseñor regarding the department's procedure when responding to these types of calls.
We teach our officers that they have to check for, life signs of pulse, rigidity, any of the telltale signs that will confirm either a person is alive or not. And that's what really disturbed me in this circumstance. It was quite apparent that that was not done.
As for Officer Wong,
Officer Wong resigned in lieu of termination. It just demonstrated again such a lack of judgment and follow-through that it was not representative of the caliber of work that's done every day by the members of this agency, and I just could not keep him on the agency.
Rosario says from that day on, he made sure to check vitals on every case he was assigned, and he urges anyone making welfare checks to do the same. If you have a story for CrimeTrackers, email crimetrackers@kvoa.com or call 955-4444. In Midtown, Lupita Murillo, News for Tucson.
All right, and Chief Villaseñor initiated an immediate internal investigation. We tried to contact Officer Lenny Wong's attorney for his side of the story, but we have not heard back.